We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States.
During an interview on MSNBC earlier this week, Speaker Pelosi basically accused the president of being a domestic terrorist. I think she may have said domestic enemy, but what's the difference? Let's break it all down. Bring in Sinclair Political Commentator Ameshia Cross. Ameshia, pretty hefty accusation there. Domestic enemy, the president of the United States?
Strong words, but well-earned. It's a well-earned title. We see Donald Trump continually trying to bolster his own election chances by basically diminishing people at the polls, appointing a postmaster general who's a huge donor of his and supporter, who is going out of his way to ensure that mail-in ballots just aren't going to happen effectively, removing postal boxes, removing sorting machines. We're watching this president utilize mail-in voting as some type of Uber fraud type situation when he's been mail-in voting forever. And so does 70% of his White House administration. So I think that this is something that was par for the course in terms of Nancy Pelosi speaking out in the way that she did, because this president is basically trying to destroy one of the core elements of our democracy.
So I take it he's not earned your vote yet. So here's the issue. Look, I get you don't like the guy. I understand voting is going to be a big political issue going forward. But for the Speaker of the House to say he's a domestic enemy, I think of people like, I don't know, Kim Jong-un, or I think of some of the mullahs in Iran or ISIS as domestic enemies. But you don't like the guy, so she's using some pretty harsh terms. It feels like a cheap shot to me.
Well, I disagree there, because domestic enemy and terrorists are two very different things. I would consider segregationists domestic enemies. I would consider people who have who utilize fear tactics and scare tactics to keep people away from voting domestic enemies. I would consider those who prevent minorities from moving into their communities domestic enemies. I would consider those who strip funding from public schools domestic enemies.
Do you consider Antifa a domestic enemy?
I consider Antifa a creation of the right-wing media.
Is Antifa a domestic enemy? It's a simple yes or no.
And again, I consider them a creation of the right-wing media.
This Antifa, quote unquote, creation of the right-wing media is a domestic enemy, yes or no?
Creation of the right-wing media.
Wow. You know, Ameshia, you and I were friends for a long time. I'm just blown away. And this is what's good. You want to know something? This is Bolling speaking here. This is why Biden won't win. This is why he can't win, because no one on the left can denounce Antifa and the antics and the tactics that they're employing in our major cities. Our major cities are burned. They're boarded up. They're burning down. Glass is being broken. And no one can stand up, Pelosi, Biden, even you, and say, that's not good. Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. I don't get it. Why is that?
No, I consider that there are some provocateurs. There are some people who enjoy causing chaos and mayhem in cities and getting their moment in the news and then disappearing. What I don't agree with is that this is some organized Antifa group of ultra-violent leftist wing people. What we do know is that many cities where Antifa was projected as causing violence, it actually happened to be someone who was antagonistic to and was a member of a right-wing militia. So no, I don't believe in that narrative at all.
No, you know, it's so odd because, I mean, I will tell you, these Proud Boys, now they call themselves ultra right-wing. I'm pretty sure they're ultra right-wing, and they're seen fighting with Antifa in some of our major cities. You're suggesting that two right-wing groups are at war with each other?
I'm suggesting that, or just stating that Antifa is not an organized group of extreme leftists who are pushing socialist ideals and out here trying to tear up and create chaos and mayhem in our major cities.
It seems like it, Ameshia. It really seems like it. It really seems
something that conservatives parrot daily.
It seems like it. They're out there breaking windows, disrupting businesses. People, citizens, innocent citizens can't get to their businesses, pay their rent. What is the purpose of Antifa? Do we know?
Again, I'm not going to give credibility to the argument of Antifa being an organized group. I believe they're provocateurs, like there have always been provocateurs when it comes to civil rights and justice. They've always infiltrated protests. This is nothing new. The whole Antifa ideology and the presence of this group that has been created by right-wing media is just something that continues to encircle these conversations, but something that has not been proven. So
you know what also has not been proven? What you just said. You said that Antifa is a creation of right-wing media. I know. I see the flags. They're black. They got an A and there's a circle around it. There's no right-wing media that's creating that. And those are the people, and they're dressed in all black, and they're putting face masks on, hiding their identity, helmets, etc., and they're beating up people and they're throwing rocks. How is it a right-wing media phenomenon and not an actual violent extremist group?
We have seen in several cities that there are people who are antagonistic towards protesters, but also antagonistic towards the police, and they aren't really helping the movement in and of themselves. But what I don't believe is that this is a largely leftist wing organized group that is actually causing this violence. I think that what you see again is provocateurs, and they have existed throughout time in various movements, not only in the U.S. but also abroad. And this is nothing new. And the labeling of these individuals as leftists who are coming to destroy cities only helps with the right-wing narrative of trying to shut down and throw a lot of shade and animosity towards leaders that are in democratic cities.
Boy, I don't know. It's just from an outside observer, for Black Lives Matter to allow a violent group to infiltrate their peaceful protests, largely peaceful protests, it just seems like you had a win, and then you're giving the win away because you let these shenanigans happen and corrupt your message. Quick final thought.
No, I agree with you there. I do think that there is something to be said about the extent to which these outside groups have come in and created chaos in situations where these are largely peaceful protests. I also find it extremely problematic that media tends to cover those incidents a lot more than it does the hundreds of thousands of people who are peacefully protesting across this country. No doubt.
If it bleeds, it leads in media. I got you, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of peaceful protests, and unfortunately, it doesn't put pretty pictures on the screen or violent pictures on the screen. That's what viewers want to see, I guess. Ameshia Cross, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.